Welcome back, Gundam guys and Gundam gals. Patrick Grade here from ggmfo.com and gundamguide.blogspot.com. And today I'm very happy to bring you the second part of the review for the Master Grade Aegis Gundam. In this video I'm going to cover everything about the mobile suit mode and the mobile armor mode, and see how it looks in both modes, and give you my overall opinions on the kit. So here we go. So I'm going to take a look at the bottom half and the top half separately, just to make it a little bit easier to show everything off, because this is a rather complex kit, and it gets a little cumbersome sometimes putting it all together and moving stuff around. So for the bottom half, there's a couple of minor annoyances with clearance issues that can become a little bit of a pain in the butt overall. Namely, on the front here, the crotch is kind of loose. It rests in place just fine as long as it doesn't get interrupted, it's okay. But if you move the front skirt up a little bit, you can see it comes down. It doesn't cause any stability issues because the crotch here is not held together by this piece, but it's just an annoyance and makes things difficult when you're posing or moving stuff around. So be aware of that. Also, with the side skirts, they do create a bit of a weight issue. You can see that I have the legs forward kind of like at a skiing angle almost, and that's even without the top half on. So these definitely do add some weight, and if you stand up too straight, it does fall back. It's not an issue with the ankles because the ankles are pretty strong. I'm holding on to the weight of the ankles myself, and they're standing up just fine. It's just that there's so much weight, it can be difficult. I think this kit definitely needs its own action base, especially for the mobile suit mode. So just be aware that you may need to have an action base to make this kit look as good as it can. Also with the side skirts, they have this raised area here, so it makes it difficult to bring the side skirts forward any more than this. It can go around the leg, but doing that makes a separation up here of the pieces, so you kind of have to be careful with moving stuff around. It doesn't fall apart all the way, but it does separate and looks kind of unsightly there, so just be aware of that. However, the joint on the side skirts is pretty fantastic. Again, these are heavy, and even having it out at these strange angles, the joint holds it in place just fine there. So that's definitely an improvement over other joints that I've seen for these kind of things. So hopefully they'll be incorporated with newer kits. Aside from that, there's not too many other issues. So your articulation is pretty good, except for the front skirts. If you hold it down, you can see that you can't move it too far forward before it interrupts with front of the hip there. So doing that only allows for about that much forward movement, and that's not too bad. But again, this is definitely applying pressure here, keeping everything together. So if you were to do it without, you'd get some separation and stuff there. So forward kick, pretty good. Backwards is fine as long as you get the side skirt up and out of the way. You can get a 180-degree bend there at the knee, of course. And even out to the side, as long as the stuff is clear. Nice articulation all around, but there are some minor annoyances with the front skirts and keeping a couple things together. But I'm being kind of clumsy with it right now. And it does look nice, really nice angles and lines. The side skirts are quite large and add some unique detail to the kit. So just be aware this is a very unique kit with a very unique transformation. So there will be oddities and frustrations that are inherent in the system here. It's not perfect, but it does work pretty well. I did leave off the front piece of my left front skirt here, just because it falls off a lot more easily than the other side here, so there's something wrong with this. But I don't think it's a design issue, at least. Overall, it's a pretty solid design. Looks really nice. It doesn't function quite as well as you would hope, but it's definitely manageable. The upper body is a little more manageable than the lower body. Design-wise, I think it looks really nice. I think it's kind of a cool thing to have the fake legs up here. Definitely adds for a unique silhouette to the kits from both sides. And the backpack is really nice too. Very solidly built because it doesn't come off. It's all a part of the same unit. So very nice stuff up here. As far as articulation goes, you don't get a full 360 turn with the arms just because of the size of the shoulder armor. It interrupts with the kit at various areas up here. That's not too huge of a deal. You do get some cool articulation with the inner shoulder. The head can turn 360 if you want it to, although it's kind of a tight fit to get around everything, but it does do it. Just be careful with the crest. Two separate pieces, and it does kind of come apart if you put too much torque on it. The only thing I really have a problem with design-wise would be the feet hanging off the back of the forearms. They do a decent job of kind of covering it up, but if you really look at it, you can kind of tell what's going on. I do like the blades coming off at a reverse angle there. That's pretty cool, but still, you can definitely tell that's feet on his forearm there, so it's kind of weird. Otherwise, the upper body is a lot more solid, at least as far as stability and weight issues go. A lot of cool design elements, a lot of hidden detail and stuff all over, so very nice kit all around. But it is quite heavy, quite a bit of weight here with the backpack and stuff, so it's going to be a pain to pose this kit on the ground. Like I said earlier, an action base is definitely required for this kit, for both modes, I think. Let's go and put it together. Alright, so here's the Aegis Gundam all put together, and I think it looks pretty good. This is a very unique design. I'm not 100% sold on it, but I can definitely find good viewing angles for it. From the front, it doesn't look the best, but I think from the side it looks a little bit better, just because you can tell more of what's going on with the side skirts and the back there. So I definitely have a preferred angle. As far as the balance issues go, it's not too bad here in the static pose, the straight up and down, or at least straight as I can get it. You can see the legs are swept under a little bit to add a different center of gravity. So it can't go straight up and down lock-legged, but it doesn't look too bad. But I don't think you can do too much more with this on the ground, at least. And because it's a heavier kit, I definitely would recommend having an action base for it, because you can't get a lot out of the kit like this. At least not in my opinion, or with my skills at posing, or lack thereof. As I hinted at before, the design is not the best in the world. I think it's a little too busy. I'm a bigger fan of a more simple design with a few flares here and there. So it's not the worst design, but I think of the 4 seed kits that came out this year, this is my least favorite. I definitely appreciate the Buster and the Blitz and the Assault Shard a little bit more than this guy. The color scheme has kind of grown on me. I still would like to see a different shade of red in there, but I think overall it's pretty nice. The gray and the light red work well together with the blue accent everywhere. Overall, pretty good design. Not my favorite, but it's not terrible. As far as stability, it holds together really well. You can shake it around, nothing really falls off except for my front skirt occasionally. The waist is a little bit weak. You can see it kind of bends around there a little too much, I think. But there is a lot of weight on the back and stuff there, so it's not too bad. The articulation really hasn't changed much. You can't get too much side-to-side movement with the size and the angle of the side skirts here. So this is probably not the most posable Gundam in the world, but I think as the design more than makes up for that, and the overall uniqueness of everything going on here. And I'm really surprised about how well it does hold together, because looking at the kit and the magazine scans and the preview images and stuff, it looked like a mess. It is kind of a mess, but at least it's a solid mess. It doesn't fall apart and collapse on its own weight, like some other kits do sometimes. If you could have the patience and the tenacity to work with it and really get a feel of the kit, I think you get a lot of enjoyment out of it. But it's not something that you pick up and play with like a figure or a toy or anything, so just keep that in mind. So the shield pegs into place with the peg here that can flip up and down depending on what angle you want it at. And it rests in place on these notches on either side of the forearm. A good strong connection there. You can see it kind of molds in with the contour of the arm and everything. Stays in place really well. Has a little bit of up and down movement, so you can kind of get some different poses out of it and get it to where you want it to be without causing the joint to break apart or anything. So it doesn't add too much weight, even though it is a heavier shield. It's got strong joints in the arm there, so it holds it up just fine. And I think the design of the shield's really nice too. It takes the classic elements of the strict shield and makes it its own design. So overall, very nice design there, and works really well on the wrist mount. I literally spent the last 5 minutes talking about how bad these hands were and how they didn't work with the rifle at all, and how I think Bandai should really spend their time focusing on hands. When all of a sudden, the stars aligned and the hand slotted into place on the rifle, and we have the heavy rifle being held in place just fine by the modular hands of the Gundam Seed kit here. Even the wrist is nice and solid too. So this is not typical. I don't know what happened. It's kind of difficult to get it to work this way. Like I said, I was spending a lot of time fumbling around with it and kind of just fell into place there. So it wasn't intentional. I'm shaking it around. No glue. This is not affixed any other way other than the slot and peg here. So good stuff. I was even able to attach the arm back to the kit without disrupting the rifle there. So there is a sloppily posed but armed and fully operational battle station here. So yeah, it looks really nice. The rifle's really unique, works well with the hand surprisingly, and looks nice with the kit too. It's got some cool shapes and design elements. Along with the shield, I think it has a pretty good weapon loadout. The last thing we need to do here is attach the effect parts to the various pokey bits and see how that looks. Alright, so here's the Aegis Gundam with the effect parts on the 4 spiky bits, 2 on the feet and 2 on the elbows. I think it looks pretty nice. I think the different color might have been a little bit better for these effect parts, clear red maybe. But it does make it stand out a little bit more with the yellow. Of course, this is a very crappy pose. It's not really a pose at all, but I'm just showing off the ability of the shoulder joint, the elbow, and the wrist to hold up that weapon straight out like that, even with the effect part there. If Bandai did something right that hopefully will affect other kits would be the joint system. I don't know what they did differently, but the parts with the side skirts here, like I said before, being able to be at weird angles like that, and the joints on the wrist, elbow, and shoulder joints for the arms, holding on to a heavier weapon there is pretty impressive. I know the joints for the side skirts are a little bit different. They have a unique design to them, but as far as the shoulder and wrist and stuff, I'm not sure what's different up there. It's a very busy kit, a lot going on, but you can kind of get some cool poses out of it. When you play with it and kind of get the feel of the center of gravity, you can make stuff work a little bit more. So spend some time with the kit, kind of get to know it. It's got a lot of possibility, I think, so this kit's really growing on me quite a bit. So next up is the time where any Master Grade transforming kit will either fail, succeed, or get by the skin of its teeth, and that's the transformation process. With other kits like the Delta Plus and Zeta and Rizal, they have a Wave Rider type form, or like a spaceship kind of deal, whereas the Aegis Gundam here is totally unique with a unique shape and transformation process. This is kind of untested and untried before from Bandai, so hopefully it succeeds or at least gets above average. Alright, so after a very unique transformation, you get a very unique mobile armor mode. This is really weird and very cool, I think. It has a lot going on, and I can't quite wrap my head around it if I like it or not. It's not horrible as I thought it would be, but it's not as nice and sleek as your typical Wave Rider form. But it does work, and aside from the head being back here just kind of looking down, it's pretty hard to tell what it was before. You get some cool elements. You have a area for the beam weapon or the energy weapon to come out in the center there. The arms and legs are definitely nicely articulated. You get a lot of movement, and they're really solid too. The thing that makes this kit work as well as it does are the joints. I commented on it earlier, but if it wasn't for the strength of the joints here, this would be a complete and utter mess, like other kits have been before. So Bandai did a good job of making a cheaper kit with strong joints, a good transformation, and overall pretty successful. I think there's only a couple small areas where this thing fails. Nothing really locks into place thanks to the strong joints here. The side skirts stay in place, but they don't lock onto anything. There's nothing holding them there. So it's a little loose and wobbly, which is kind of a downside, but it's definitely manageable and can be easily overlooked by the overall quality of the transformation. And one of the things that makes a mobile armor mode worth it is the ability to move these legs and arms around to get some unique shapes out of the front here. I didn't do it quite right. There's something I'm doing wrong here with the joints, but you're supposed to be able to get everything out nice and flat like this and at an angle to where it looks like some kind of spear or pointy tip thing. But I can't quite do it. I don't know what I'm doing wrong with the joints here. They don't bend where they're supposed to. One of the things that makes it a little more difficult is the manual's not very clear about what's going on. Like this part right here, I think this is what my problem is. I don't know what it's trying to show me here, so I can't tell what's going on there. If you take the time and really learn how to work with the kit, you can get a lot of nice posing out of the mobile armor mode. And I think it looks good. I mean, it's unique, like I said. It's not a Wave Rider form, so it's not going to look like a fighter pilot or a fighter plane. But I think overall it's pretty cool. Now, this is my opinion, but I think there's a lot of playability here, and it's pretty solid. Again, I just wish these things would lock in place at least. It seems like there's the equipment here to do it. They could have made that lock in place and make it a little more stable. The front part here, all the legs and arms, they work well. I mean, there's no give there. There's no pieces falling off aside from my little bit here for the front skirt. And if you take the time to line everything up and put it on an action stand and just kind of leave it there, it looks good too. So I'm really impressed with the kit overall. It's not perfect, especially in mobile suit mode. I think that's more important to me, a good mobile suit mode, than a good alternate form. Although this does work well. It has some unique elements and a unique design too. For a $60 kit or a little bit less than 60 bucks, you get a cool transformation, a very fun build. Putting everything together in this kit is really fun, even though you have essentially 4 arms or 4 legs. They're a little bit different, the upper and lower body. And it's just fun to put together, so it's a good time all around. The mobile suit mode is kind of tricky to play with, to pose and everything. It's a little unforgiving as far as ground posing, but I think the mobile armor mode kind of makes up for it just because of the range of possibilities with the posing and getting everything into place. The transformation is not that bad. It's pretty forgiving. You just kind of have to move stuff around and get at some of these deeper areas, like these little pads on the waist armor here. It could have been a real mess and a real disaster, a la the Victory Gundam from a few years ago. But for the 4th kit on the Seed line that came out this year, I think this one's definitely the most complex and the most unique. Maybe not the best of the 4, but quite possibly top 2 or 3, I guess. I don't know. So it's not that bad. I was thinking this would be the worst one, or at least the most difficult one. But I think it makes up for it in overall quality and uniqueness, so not so bad at all. So I know I've rambled on quite a bit for this review, and there's a couple things I didn't cover, like the transformation process or a couple minor details here and there. But it's time to move on to my other kits that I have waiting for me, like the Real Grade Zeta and Master Grade Dark Hound. So I'm going to go wrap up this review here and give you my final thoughts for the kits. Overall, it's a pretty fantastic kit. I had my reservations going into the kit because I wasn't too fond of the design in either the mobile armor mode or the mobile suit mode, but after going through the fun build process and playing with the kit quite a bit, I've really come to appreciate it. It's definitely something I would recommend. It may have a few issues in both modes, like balance issues and stability in mobile suit mode, but I think the mobile armor mode more than makes up for it. And like I said before, the joints are what makes this kit. If the joints and the appendages here weren't as strong, there's no way this kit would work as well as it does. And it's a shame because some of the other kits that have come out recently, like the Master Grade Delta Plus, really suffers from weak joints, especially in the ankles. So Bandai definitely did some good stuff with the joints in this kit, and hopefully it transfers over to any new kits that are coming out after this. As far as positives, it's a strong build. The build process is very fun. The joints work well. The design overall is pretty nice. It's really kind of grown on me quite a bit. As far as negatives, I would say there's a minor issue with the lack of color separation. The one shade of pink is kind of underwhelming. I wish I had a different lighter or darker shade to go along with the main color here. But having the decals and stickers here and there really help break up the monotony of the single color, as well as the gray and blue plastic looks nice too. So it's not a bad color scheme. It just would have been nice to have a separate color there in the mix. There are a couple balance issues in the mobile suit mode that make it somewhat difficult to stand up sometimes and pose, but it's not too huge of a deal. Actually, I'm kind of surprised about how well this kit works as far as balancing. It's not as bad as it could be. That's just a minor issue as well. And there are a couple things that fall off, like you've seen before. The front skirt comes off quite easily, but that could be a defect in mine. And I wish that some of these areas would lock down in place in the mobile armor mode, but it works pretty well as it is. So the few minor issues aside, I think this is a great kit. I would definitely recommend anybody go out there and pick it up who's a fan of the design or who wants a fun kit to build and have a unique transformation. This kit definitely has uniqueness in spades, so it's worth your time and your money. Go out and check it out. Like I said before, there's a couple things that I didn't cover too much in this review, so we'll take the time if you want me to go back over it. I'll also break out my other kits from the seed line that came out this year, the Assault Shroud, the Blitz, and the Buster Gundam, if you'd like, and do some comparisons and at least have a group shot there. So let me know what you want me to do. I'm going to go and move on to the Real Grade Zeta unboxing now, so hopefully that'll be up in a couple hours, and get to that review process. So thanks a lot for watching. Let me know what you think of the video and the kit with a comment down below. I appreciate any and all feedback from you guys, negative or positive, so please let me know. Thanks a lot to Gundam Guy for providing the kit. I really appreciate it. Stay tuned for more videos, and I will see you soon.